Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 30 Days, 30 Critique Sessions. We're on day 19, and it's Saturday. I should be watching like Saturday morning cartoons or something like that, but it's okay. We're here, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to take a look at TC Connor's image. He's an F64 Elite member. Really looking forward to getting into this one. But before we do that, we have our twist. As usual, Gary Shira and his 19 friends showed up and said, in ACR, do not use the exposure slider nor a curve for tone sculpting. Instead, use color grading luminance for exposure and tone sculpting. This is awesome because this is kind of like a hat trick set of sliders that people don't really use for this reason. And I think after this, you'll see why we could. All right, let's get into the critique. Today's critique image comes from TC Connor, F64 Elite member, and also somebody that's going to be having a vision session coming up here on F64 Elite, and vision sessions are pretty cool. Gary actually just had his vision session, and it's going to go live next week. And a vision session is really just a session where I sit down with somebody and we really look hard at their vision and try to apply it to an image, and becomes usually about a 7-video series and lots of discussion about vision. But let's get into TC's right now. I really like this macro shot. You know that I do shoot macro myself, not as much as I used to, but I really enjoy it. And I know that it's difficult. It's especially difficult to create a unique composition when you make a macro shot. So to get this composition, I think this is actually a phenomenal composition. And you'll see what I'm going to do with it later with the crop that'll make it even better. But the way you kind of like come across the back of the bee, right across the wings, and then right into the area of where it is getting its pollen from. And that is just spectacular, especially because when you're doing this macro stuff, it can be really hard to see the composition and then also have the speed to be able to photograph it and the technique to be able to photograph it while all the important things are tack sharp. And that would be, for me, that's the eye and the mouth. I really don't care too much if the rest of the image is tack sharp. I know a lot of people will do like a 50-shot macro and get every little ounce of detail. That doesn't bother me. I actually like the bokeh as it goes into the back. So I do have a couple of disconnects with this, but not many. The first one is it looks like there's a pollen color that's kind of just draping over this image, and uniquely pollen colored because obviously we have a bee sucking on pollen. But what I feel is happening is like there's again like this veil or like transparency of yellow that's over top of it that to me feels like a white balance thing. It doesn't necessarily feel like a color grade. And what that's doing is it's holding back all of the blue potential in the image, so then your whites get a little dingy. It's kind of like when you get a white t-shirt and you really enjoy that white t-shirt because it's pure white, and then you wash it 2 or 3 times and then it's like, crap, I need new white t-shirts because they all look dingy. That's essentially what the whites look like in this image, and we can get them right back. We'll bleach those whites. How about that? And the second thing actually has to deal with the composition. As much as I like the composition, I do think that there is a much stronger one in here, and we'll take a look at that. And the third thing is detail. I really think it's important that you sharpen macro images, and this image definitely has its sharpening, but the problem is it's sharpened everywhere. And typically when I suggest sharpening, it's only on the subject and the subject only. So let's take a look at this stuff in the work. Okay, so with Gary's message, I have to use Adobe Camera Raw to do tone sculpting. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a duplicate copy of this by pressing Command or Control J, and then I'm gonna press Control Shift A, Command Shift A on a Mac to go into Adobe Camera Raw as a filter. Now, I am going to fix the noise also in Adobe Camera Raw, but I need to do this tone sculpting stuff first and possibly fix the color of this. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, if you're in Adobe Camera Raw, this is what I love about Adobe Camera Raw, is you can actually press and hold the Shift key. And when you press and hold Shift, no matter where you are in your workflow, it's going to switch over to the eyedropper tool so that you can make an assessment of what you want to be neutral. Now, I want anything in this area because I know that this white and gray area should be neutral. So watch this. I'll press and hold Shift, and I'll just draw a box around here by clicking and dragging with my left click. Okay? Now maybe I'll get deeper into just those areas right there, or maybe into this area right here. Pressing and holding Shift just to try and get a different look for the white balance of the image. Now, we can also do the whole image by pressing and holding Shift up here and dragging across the bottom. That'll just average out and white balance the entire image. And I think we get some of our greens back that way. So let's do this. Let's experiment now by making a little bit more green in there. Okay. There we go. And then our vibrance, we don't need to really do anything with that stuff, so I'll just delete that. Okay, so now look at our after color. See that? It just takes away, that carves away that kind of pollen-y kind of coloring to the image. And if we wanted to color grade that in a yellow way later, I would, but to me, this is a clear white balance thing. So the second thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to tone sculpt this using the color grading sliders as requested by Gary and friends. So I'm going to go to my profile here, and I have something in here called the viewer navigation map, which is essentially what I give you in the self-critique guide that I've turned into a profile that I can use in Adobe Camera Raw, which will give me the tone clustering for this image. And now here in the color grading section, look at how you can move these to push and pull the tonal presence of the image. Look at this. This is pretty awesome, actually. So I'm going to pull this up a little bit, and then with our shadows, might pull those up a little bit, and then with our midtones. What I like about this is it actually isn't changing the tonal clustering that's happening here, like we would see with an exposure adjustment or a highlights or a shadows. But is it changing? Let's change this back to our normal color profile, okay? And then we'll turn this on and off. You see, it's keeping the tone clusters the same, but it's just allowing us to modify the tonal quality within the tone cluster, which is something unique that I actually haven't stumbled across. So thank you, Gary, for pointing that out to us. Okay, so I like the tone now. I like the color now. Let's open this up because I am going to come back into Adobe Camera Raw to do some noise reduction on this. So I'm just going to leave it like this. So we've got our tone and color done. Now what I need to do is I need to separate my B from the background. So what I'm going to do, go to select and go to subject. I want to keep all the detail on the B. So I'm glad that you have this level of detail in the entire image. I just don't want it quite as much on the rest of the image. So I'm going to press Control J to duplicate the B. That'll put the B on its own layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into this layer 1, Control Shift A to go back into Adobe Camera Raw as a filter. And I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to fix the noise that's happening back here. Okay, because I think if you do noise reduction first and then you do your sharpening efforts, you're going to have a much better looking image because that area of bokeh, it'll just kind of blur and be all creamy and milky like it should. So we're going to go to detail. And I'm not going to do anything with sharpening, but noise reduction, I'm going to bring this up. And watch this as I bring the noise reduction up. You see how we get that creamy kind of bokeh back. Now I'm going to keep it pretty high, okay? And then just open this up in Photoshop. So now, look at this. Now that area there that we just reduced the noise on, if we take a look at this before and after, okay? I only wanted that to be on things outside of the B. And I didn't want it to be such an aggressive noise reduction that we lose any of that detail either. It's just a mild noise reduction there so that the detail of the B can pop out. So if we don't do that, it just seems like everything's sharp. So now that we're separating these things out, you can start to see it. And look at the way this is shaping out. Wow, this is incredible. Now the last thing I want to cover is the composition. So if I press C for the crop tool, I'm going to see if this is a 1-to-1 ratio because it looks like it. It's almost 1-to-1. Well, let's see, is it 8:10? It's kind of, but not really. And it's definitely not a 4:6. So this isn't your traditional crop. This to me is a crop that's like, well, I wanted to crop it this way because it just seemed like it fit. But I'm going to show you that inside this image is one of the most difficult, and I mean absolutely the most difficult composition techniques that you can ever strive to find in nature and landscape photography. You ready for this? It's called the Fibonacci spiral, or what some people call the golden spiral. So when you're in Photoshop, you press the O key, and that will switch between the different guides that you have for composition. So I'm going to get to the Fibonacci spiral, or the golden spiral. And here's the thing. If this happens to be like this, and it's like, wait, that doesn't quite fit the narrative of my image. Okay, well, neither does that. Neither does that. How am I switching between these to get it to rotate? Well, if you press Shift and O while you're in these different grid overlays for your crop, you can change that. So I think I'm going to change this to a 4:6. That is a really nice Fibonacci spiral there. And you can basically just put this exactly where you want to kind of come around. 4:6 seems a little tight, so let's go back to 4:5. And you'll see I'm going to place this so that it comes in from this corner, touches the top of that wing, comes around, touches the tip of this flower, and brings us right into where the action is happening. Now, it's not perfect, okay, and I'm not going to crop this to make it perfect either, but look at that. Look at that. Just soak that in, because even though it might not seem like it from first glance, this has one of the most advanced composition techniques in composition, which is the Fibonacci spiral. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever shot for it. I usually just see it afterwards. But look at that now. Okay, so we have our overall before. It's got that kind of pollen-y kind of look to it. So what did we do? Well, we went ahead and we fixed the white balance of it so those whites look like good, nice white t-shirts, nice and bleached. And then we fixed the over sharpening of the blurry areas. And we have our B that is still tack sharp on top because we want that to be tack sharp. And what else did we do? We cropped it so that it fit that beautiful composition. So you can go off on your own and do whatever kind of crop you want. I get that 100%. But sometimes staying within tradition works. But what's even better than that is when you see a really unique composition with dynamic angles and you explore that and make that the source of your composition. Great stuff here. Thank you for sharing, TC. Our showcase image comes from Doug Parks. Doug, man, I've seen Doug come a long way with his color work. Him and I did a one-on-one session, must have been about a year or two ago. I can't really remember or recall, but I remember talking to him about his color work and his tonal work and his use of composition and how he sees the landscape and stuff. And, you know, it took one session for him to really just take off with his color work. And that's what I really appreciate about this, is because I can really see a craftsman who's paying attention to the rusty orange color that's happening on the rocks with the beautiful pink that just happens to be coming in the balanced area on the sides of the composition. It's like right here to right here. And then we have this beautiful blue. So we have this blue to orange juxtaposition, this color theory that's going on, met with this beautiful pink right in the middle, and coupled with a really fantastic composition for this. I usually don't like 16:9 compositions and crops. My subscribers know that about me, because I think if you're going to force a panoramic crop, it has to be for a reason. I think people use it too often sometimes, but with this image, it's perfect for it. This is a beautiful 16:9 crop here for this. So I think that your choice of crop, your choice of subject matter, your choice of tone, your choice of color, all creates this balanced mood and feeling for me. I just feel balanced. You know, this is one of those images that it kind of stands the test of time. Like, I can get sick of looking at certain images for so long. I have over here, you can't see it, but over here, I've got a frame that I swap out the images in every once in a while. This is an image that I think could just be that standard that just stays, you know? It's got that feeling to it where I think no matter how many times I look at it, every time I look at it, I'm going to see something different and feel something different. And that's a really unique thing that you can do with a viewer. So I think you've done wonderful work here, Doug. Thank you for sharing this with us. All right, so we are doing this for Give Kids Art. We are on day 19, and right now we're looking at 418 art kits, which is awesome, which that equates to $4,979 that has come in from 103 donors through this campaign, and that is incredible. And then an additional $1,286.50 from interactions that happened with the F64 Academy content. That's 25 cents for subscriptions, 50 cents for downloading the self-critique guide, $4 for becoming an F64 Elite monthly member, and $20 for becoming an F64 Elite annual member, with a combined total now of $6,265.50. So we're getting close to that $6,400 goal, but I'm glad that we split this up because I have an idea here coming up in the next couple days that I'll discuss. So tomorrow we do not have a twist. Tomorrow is a twist-free day because I'm pre-recording Sundays so that I can take at least one day's break where I don't have to wake up super early and create these videos so I can go and spend some quality time with my family at church. Thank you so much for honoring that and understanding that, and we'll come back with a donation update on the 22nd. Tomorrow, enjoy your pre-recorded critique session.